Gathered friends, listen again to our legend of the Bionicle. Hello everyone, it's Brian. Today we have a special video to present to you. A year ago, I came across a Bionicle Iceberg created by Malaki Lewis on the Facebook group Bionicle Mask Posting. For those of you who don't know what an iceberg is, it is a diagram that lists out plenty of references starting at the top and ending at the bottom, the top being the most well-known and the bottom being the most obscure. This particular iceberg is probably one of the most extensive Bionicle icebergs out there. We got into contact with Malaki, and he has offered to assist us in creating this explained video, while ensuring that all of the information is correct and accurate. We, the team of Amaja-Nui Tales, have put plenty of time and effort into creating this Bionicle Iceberg explained video for all of you to see. We hope you all enjoy as we dive into all of the mysterious secrets of the Bionicle Iceberg. Let's get started.
The Toa. The Toa are considered the heroes of the Bionicle universe. These biomechanical beings possess elemental powers and powerful masks to lead them toward their destiny. Though there are plenty, the Toa Mata are probably the most recognizable Toa team of the Bionicle universe that everyone is familiar with. Making their first appearance in canisters back in 2001, these 6 heroes fought so many villains throughout their lives and fulfilled their destiny. Amaja-Nui, the Great Spirit himself. Amaja-Nui is considered to be the god of Bionicle who watches over all of the Matoran. We first hear about the legend of Amaja-Nui, where he is represented as a rock. Amaja-Nui is also the name of the island that was the setting for much of 2001 to 2003. As the Bionicle story progressed, it became apparent that there was more to this Amaja-Nui than people realized. The retrospective. This video was released back in 2008 as a way to recap all of the events of Bionicle from 2001 leading up to 2008. It is quite the nostalgic trip and gives a brief overview of the main story. Numerous fan edits of this video also exist on YouTube. The games. A lot of promotional material for Bionicle included the games. From in-browser games like the iconic Amaja-Nui online game to the console games like Bionicle Heroes, there were a whole range of games to choose from, each with their own unique gameplay, story, and mechanics. The movies. Another type of media that a lot of people remember Bionicle for are the movies. These movies bring a lot of life and emotion to the story of Bionicle in ways we could not imagine. Seeing these characters were living and breathing made these action figures have an additional layer of complexity and gave us inspiration for our own stories. 4 movies were released throughout the Bionicle series. 2 TV series later appeared in a reboot, but no one really talks about them. Tahu, the famous, hot-headed Toa of Fire and leader of the Toa Mata. He wields a flaming sword and carries one of the most popular masks, the Kanohi Hao. Appearing in several forms of Bionicle media and promotional materials, he is easily the most recognizable Bionicle out there. Multiple versions of him were made, with Lego brick versions of him being his most recent iteration, the red one. You can't miss him.
G2. G2, or Generation 2, refers to Bionicle's hard reboot going from 2015 to 2017. It simplified many of Bionicle's original story elements as a way to introduce younger audiences. Much of the set design took inspiration from the original Bionicle series, though the reboot did not garner the same amount of appeal or sales as its predecessor, which eventually led to its cancellation. The universe is a giant robot. Much of the Bionicle world or universe takes place inside the body of Amaja-Nui, the Great Spirit robot. This reveal was planned from the beginning of Bionicle's inception in 2001 and was not fully revealed until 2008. The discovery was a shock to all Bionicle fans. Hero Factory. Hero Factory was a LEGO theme considered to be the successor of Bionicle. In an attempt to keep the construction building around after Bionicle, early Hero Factory sets included from the maker of Bionicle in the marketing. It had its own lore and promotional material. Greg Farshty. Greg Farshty is known as the author of the majority of Bionicle stories, comics, books, and online serials. He is widely considered the go-to authority for the community on what is canon and what is not in Bionicle lore. Makuta is a species, and Makuta's real name. Originally, the Makuta was thought to be one singular evil being who was the main antagonist of the Toa heroes. However, the Makuta later became the name of a species in which there were actually more than one Makuta. This was confirmed in 2008 when Makuta sets were released. Despite being referred to as Makuta for the majority of the story prior to 2008, the main villain of the heroes had a real name, Pterodax. This name reveal caused an uproar in the Bionicle community, as many saw it as ruining the mystery of the Makuta. Ask Greg. Ask Greg was formerly a forum thread on the LEGO website and later on another fan site called the TTV message boards, where LEGO and Bionicle fans could ask Greg Farshty questions usually related to the Bionicle story. Records of the Q&A can be found on the website called the Greg Archives. Toa Mata were not the first Toa. Despite the Toa Mata being the first Toa we were introduced to, they were not the first Toa ever. This is a reference back to the revelation by Turaga Vakama in 2003 that Vakama and his fellow Turaga were once Toa. Helrex is considered the very first Toa. Other Toa, like the Toa Kordak, came right before the existence of the Toa Mata. Amaja-Nui online game, commonly referred to as MNOG. This was the first web browser game that helped open up the story of Bionicle in 2001. It is a game where the player explores the island of Amaja-Nui as Takua. Due to the limited media accessibility and the cancellation of another Bionicle game, Legend of Amaja-Nui, this was the primary way audiences were able to consume the 2001 story. Metru Nui. Also known as the City of Legends, this metropolis was the home of the Turaga and was the main setting of 2004 and 2005. Considered by many to be the brain of the Great Spirit, this island plays a pivotal role in the Matoran universe. Bionicle characters are cyborgs. This refers to how characters of Bionicle are biomechanical. Matoran universe inhabitants are roughly 85% mechanical and 15% organic. In contrast, beings like the Agori and Glatorian of Spherus Magna are born fully organic but later take on mechanical implants. They are the inverse and roughly 85% organic and 15% mechanical. Bionicle saved LEGO from bankruptcy. Bionicle greatly contributed to LEGO's survival in the early 2000s. Much of Bionicle's contributions had to do with embedding a story into the LEGO pieces and spreading that story through various pieces of media. I won't go over all the details, as much of it can be found in the Popular Mechanics article, link in the description.
MOCs. The phrase MOCs is an acronym for My Own Creation. MOCs are a way for fans to use LEGO to build their own original creations. Bionicle is known to inspire others to create their own characters and create their own story around them. TTV. TTV stands for the Three Virtues. It is a popular fan group that got their start and end as a Bionicle YouTube channel. They once led a Bionicle canonization contest to canonize depictions of the Bionicle characters that previously did not have any. Move along. This popular song by the All-American Rejects was used in much of the promotional material for the 2006 Toa Nika sets. Reviving Bionicle. This is in reference to the popular YouTube series Reviving Bionicle by Suddenly Oranges. Their videos are known to be comedic in nature. Be sure to check them out. Crowshell. This Danish rock band was known for creating lots of Bionicle-related songs, including Creeping in My Soul, Gravity Hurts, and Bye Bye Babylon. Despite Bionicle's end, the band still releases songs to this day. Maori controversy. Back in 2001, LEGO decided to borrow words from the Maori culture to name various Bionicle characters and locations. The Maori responded to this, stating that the use of these Polynesian words in such trivial manners was offensive. To avoid a possible lawsuit, LEGO agreed to remove various words from their products. These words were erased in subsequent years. A renaming ceremony was later held in the Bionicle lore to change characters' names and to avoid further controversy. Good Guy. This Bionicle Polybag was released in 2006 and achieved meme status due to his small size and extremely simple build. BZ Power. A Bionicle news and discussion forum that was known for getting all the exclusive news, including leaks and prototypes of upcoming Bionicle sets. Kanoka Club. This was a page on the original Bionicle website where users could type various codes from Kanoka disc, Ratuka spinners, and other Bionicle merchandise. These codes would grant Kanoka points that could be used to purchase online goodies such as wallpapers, games, animations, and more. The page was eventually shut down. Great Spirit Robot Head made by LEGO designer. A LEGO designer named Tooth Dominoes designed a Great Spirit Robot Head that was supposed to be his tribute to Bionicle. Instructions for the construction are available online. Yo-Yo Paraka. The gang is on the loose. Nothing you can do. You can try, but why? You know you're going to lose. Yo-Yo Paraka. BS01. The Biosector01 wiki prides itself in being the most accurate information source for Bionicle lore and history of the theme. Huki and Maku. These two Matoran are said to be Bionicle's original romantic couple. Their early story heavily implied the two had romantic feelings for each other. However, love is not considered canon due to Matoran universe beings being unable to sexually reproduce. Biomediaproject. This online archive is where all Bionicle assets can be found, including comics, promotional material, music, online games, and more. Though the Biomediaproject contains the most Bionicle assets out there, another website called Wall of History is dedicated to archiving all the books and online serials. Go ahead and check these two out if you're interested.
Krakua's Prophecy.
In the book Time Trap, the Toa Fire Vakama was given a vision while he was under the influence of a creature described as a Kratata, a combination of a Krana and a Krata. In this vision, Krakua, a Toa of Sonics, tells Vakama to send the Toa Anika on a mission. Vakama will have no choice but to wait and hope for their success. The Krakua in this vision is supposed to be a version of him from the far future, caught in a fight to defend a besieged fortress. However, this plot point never reappears in the story.
Krakua does not wear a helm. The design for the Toa of Sonics Krakua shows him wearing a gray Kanoe helm, since the design of the Seletu, the Mask of Telepathy, did not exist at the time of the MOC's creation. In canon, Krakua wears a gray Seletu. UK LEGO Adventures comic. This is about the Adventures magazine released in the United Kingdom. The series of magazines had short comics of Bionicle characters featured in them that appeared from issue 29 to issue 34. These comics are known to be bizarre and had a lot of odd dialogue choices and canonical errors. LEGO Ideas projects. This refers to the many projects on LEGO Ideas in an attempt to release new Bionicle sets, though none have gotten past the first stage. One project by Sakota was pushed hard by TTV and other Bionicle communities, but the LEGO Ideas project ultimately did not reach the goal of pre-purchases. Throwbots and Robo-Riders. These two LEGO themes were the direct predecessors of Bionicle. LEGO Technic was quickly cycling through various similar themes, and Bionicle was planned to follow in a similar fashion. However, due to its success between 2001 and 2003, the Bionicle theme was extended for subsequent years. Both Throwbots and Robo-Riders shared similar themes to Bionicle, like the use of elements. Free the Band. Free the Band was a real-world advertising campaign that claimed the band The All-American Rejects had been kidnapped by the Paraka and were lost at sea. Apparently, they were forced to play private concerts for the Paraka. After 50 days, the band was finally rescued by the Toa and Aika. 90th Anniversary Vote. A vote was conducted by LEGO to see what LEGO theme would become the 90th anniversary set. Bionicle was one of the top themes that was voted on. However, despite the push for votes from the Bionicle community, the winner was ultimately given to the castle theme. Bionicle fans were outraged and made bold claims thinking that the polls were rigged. LEGO would later on create a 90th anniversary set featuring a googly-eyed Tahu as one of its many creations in the set. Faber's brain tumor. Faber's battle with a benign tumor was said to be the inspiration for the story of Bionicle. Amaja-Nui falls into a deep sleep due to a virus, and 6 heroes coming out from canisters or pills come to the rescue to defeat the evil villain responsible for the virus. Sexualized Rudaka. Rudaka's set build is said to show many sexualized features. Many people have taken it a step farther by creating interesting images and art of Rudaka. Feel free to search them up, but don't say I didn't warn you. Great Spirit Robot True Height. The Amaja-Nui robot is canonically 40 million feet tall, though many of his early concept art and depictions show him being much smaller. Many point out the discrepancies of his size using the island of Amaja-Nui's canon size as a reference. The height that Faber's art gives him is 11 million feet tall, which is much more accurate to the iconic image of him breaking through the Denmark-sized island in the 2008 commercial. Velika is a great being. This revelation was first revealed in the Yesterday Quest online serial and later confirmed by Greg Farshtey. Velika was the fake name of a great being who placed his own spirit inside the body of a Pomatoran. This hidden great being had plans to rule Spherus Magna and believed the other great beings were too passive in stopping the destruction of their world. Viriki. The product of early internet and playground rumors, Viriki was supposed to be the original 7th Toa. He was originally created by the user Bionicle7 for the Build Your Own Bionicle website contest. The concept of the 7th Toa was later used in future stories when Takua or Takanuva was revealed to be the canon 7th Toa. Love isn't canon, a common joke in reference to the fact that Bionicle characters cannot love each other due to them not being able to sexually reproduce. However, love is canon in the Bionicle universe among the Agori and Glatorian, and yes, Greg has confirmed that they can sexually reproduce and have weddings. Conflicting Pterodax deaths. There has been a debate on how exactly Pterodax died in the final battle. Some people think that he was hit by Boda Magna due to the artwork shown in the Amaja-Nui Saga series. Other people thought that Pterodax was killed by a fragment of Aqua Magna, which was shown in the comics. In Journey's End, the final novel, as well as the Amaja-Nui Saga, it is clearly stated to be the planet Boda Magna. In the comic Rebirth, it is shown to be a fragment that has detached from Aqua Magna. The story serial Samad's Tale mentions that it was a fragment from one of the 2 moons, not specifying which. The interpretation that the comic gives, and by extension Samad's Tale gives, is what Greg confirmed to be the canon version back in 2011. Baby Tahu. This is a reference to Tahu's 90th anniversary form with big googly eyes. Shadow Toa. This is a reference to the 2001 fight of the Toamata with their shadow counterparts, which they defeated by acknowledging the darkness is a part of them. This fight was only mentioned in the books and was never depicted in any other media, including MNOG. MOL Extended Ending. An extended ending of the Mask of Light movie was showcased on Toonami, a TV program block of the Cartoon Network, that would explain and hint more about the prequel, Legends of Metru-Nui. The ending even showed footage from the prequel movie. Bionicle references in modern LEGO. A lot of recent LEGO sets make references to Bionicle in their printed LEGO pieces. Bionicle Day 810. A fan-made stream that is supposed to celebrate Bionicle, with plenty of Bionicle community heads collaborating to showcase talks and interviews and just anything to celebrate Bionicle. They have recently brought on some of the creators behind Bionicle. The date August 10th is supposed to be a play on the prefix bio. Mock Pages. Mock Pages was a website in which LEGO fans could share pictures and fan fiction of their mocks with other users. The website is currently shut down. BZ Power Comics. This was a large old collection of BZ Power comics with fan-made stories that utilize sprites and templates to tell the stories. Lime Joints. An ever-going problem with the 2007 sets that heavily included lime pieces that would easily snap due to poor quality of the lime plastic. It can also be a reference to the Lime Joint podcast that did shitposts like podcasts related to Bionicle. This podcast would play a more significant role in the downfall of a particular TTV member named Ga-Wahi. The Hand Debate. During the making of the Mask of Light movie, there was a debate between the movie creators, Creative Caper, and LEGO regarding whether the characters should have hands. Creative Capers won, and all the characters were shown to have hands with fingers. Despite this, there was a continued debate regarding whether or not the characters in the story had fingers. Greg Farshty stated that the characters did not have fingers, but instead magnetic plates in their hands. This conflicted with various mentions of clawed hands in the books, as well as various Bionicle sets having fingers like the Stars sets. Bow-Rock Armatoran. A shocking revelation in which some Armatoran at some point in their life would eventually evolve into mindless Bow-Rock. This was first hinted at by Mavra, who theorized on this hypothesis. The shocking revelation was shown firsthand to the Toa-Nuva during their stay in Cardinui. Subtle hints of this can be found in the 2002 Barog concept art. Legend of Amaja-Nui PC game. The cancelled 2001 Bionicle game was recently rediscovered. Despite having various bugs and not being fully complete, a functional version of the game is now playable thanks to Lightstone Studios. Todorok's Question. This is a reference to the Todorok who appeared in Amaja-Nui and later went on a crazy journey searching for the answer to his question. It was hinted that the question had something to do with why the Todorok was so far away from home. Turaga Likon has no right hand. This is a reference to the Gold Good Guy, which was a promotional set released with Duracell batteries in 2006. It was later canonized as the depiction of Turaga Likon by Greg in 2014. The unusual set shows Turaga Likon with no hand on his right arm. Quest for the Toa. This is in reference to the popular Game Boy Advance game that told the story of Takua roaming around Amaja-Nui doing various missions to rescue the Turaga and summon the Toamata. It takes place before the arrival of the Toamata. In the end, Takua is launched onto the beaches of Ga-Wahi after activating the Toa Stones, which connect to the very beginning of MNOG, where Takua is found on a beach. Trencrom. Trencrom was a fully organic, hideous being who was the predecessor of Amaja-Nui. He ran the Matoran universe during its construction, and it was later locked away after his use was over. His look was said to drive people insane. He once took the body of Liwa in an attempt to save the universe. He was later freed and killed by the great being Velika. The entity was heavily inspired by the creature Cthulhu. Quest for Amaja-Nui. This fan-made, ambitious, Bionicle open-world RPG game is a mod to StarCraft II. The game, created by Craney, brought in huge popularity and recruitment of many fan favorites like Tony Wedgwood, the voiceover for many Bionicle commercials back in the day. Many fans have compared the game's mechanics to Dark Souls or Skyrim. No completion date has been released as of yet.
Tau vs. Korok animation. This proof of concept animation was made by Blur Studio and was their proposal of having a collaboration with LEGO on a Bionicle project. It was ultimately not chosen by LEGO. Dreaming Plague. The Dreaming Plague was a significant event in which the ancient entity Anuna consumed the dreams of the Iron Tribe and drove the Iron-Agori and Glatorian insane due to their inability to dream. The Iron Tribe was left devastated and was nearly wiped out. Other tribes on Spheres Magna did not assist the Iron Tribe, believing their worship of the Scopio caused the infection. The remaining survivors were exiled from society, as many feared they would get infected also. Bionicle and Malcolm in the Middle. Bionicle sets were shown in the TV show Malcolm in the Middle, and some of the actors were shown playing with these sets. This was not the first time Bionicle sets made a cameo in TV shows and movies. Bionicle has also appeared in Spy Kids and in Terminator, The Sarah Connor Chronicles. Uki Nika wearing a robe, and other prototypes. Early concepts of the Toa Nika originally did not have them with rubber masks and glowing sword weapons. The 2006 Inika prototype showcased different sets of weapons and more traditional masks which never appeared in the final sets. Uki is shown wearing a robe which was ultimately recycled for the Titan Axon. Additionally, unused assets in the web-based game Voyanui online game depict prototype Nuparo and prototype Hahli. LEGO would later revert to more traditional builds with the 2007 Toa Mari. It is speculated that the 2006 Inika prototypes influenced the designs of some of the Mari. Bionicle Heroes is non-canon. Many story elements in the popular video game Bionicle Heroes are clearly non-canon, as the Toa and Nika must face off with various characters from previous years. Even Axon is portrayed as a villain. Other, more hilarious story elements include the Paraka Playground, where the Paraka simply have fun. Bob Thompson absence. Bob Thompson was one of the co-creators of Bionicle and conceptualized much of the early story of Bionicle between 2001 to 2005. He was also the executive producer for the first 3 Bionicle movies. He left in early 2006 to pursue his own career ambitions and founded his own creative service company, Good Story Productions. He currently works as a consultant for a British film production company called Peterson James Limited. Kongu Mari's Toa Tool. Kongu Mari originally had a Toa tool, but later decided to discard it for 2 Kordak blasters instead of 1. The reason for this choice is unknown, and there's very little info about his original Toa tool. Mavra is still alive. Mavra is an Onu-Matoran who had a deep fascination with ancient undersea Rahi. He drowned during a battle with the Toa Metru, while the Toa were leaving Metru-Nui. In the online serial The Powers That Be, it was discovered that he was resurrected on the Red Star and assisted Toa Pohatu and Toa Kapaka to escape the evil workers of the star. What Mavra did next is unknown since the serial was left unfinished. Mutated Brutaka set. A fake 2007 set of Mutated Brutaka was shared around the community, convincing many that it was genuine. It was actually a mock created by a fan. Since then, many have wanted to depict Mutated Brutaka in various mock forms to match his canon description in the story. Golden Mask Clashing Cannon. This is a reference to the golden mask of the Toa Mata changing shape in MNOG and Borak Online animations. In one instance, for example, Pohatu was shown to wear a golden Kanoi Komau, though none of the noble masks were shown to be golden. Canonically, the shape of the golden masks are permanently locked. The changing mask shapes were done to visually show which power was being used as a way to reduce confusion. Additionally, there are various depictions of how the Toa Mata acquired their golden mask, though canonically, they acquired the golden mask when they placed all 6 of their collected masks on the statues in Kini Nui. Humanicle. This is in reference to Charlie Rose's Humanicle drawings that show Bionicle characters with human limbs and parts in very strange places and positions. Since Bionicle enjoys reusing parts in different locations throughout the character, Charlie Rose decided it would be interesting to replace all these parts with their human counterparts. The result is pure nightmare fuel. Botar's replacement. After the death of Botar, a replacement for Botar was found by the Order of Motunui to carry out similar tasks to Botar. This was often criticized by the community due to Botar already serving as a Deus Ex Machina with no personality, meaning his death ultimately had 0 impact on the story. Currently, the original Botar is stuck on the Red Star. Hopefully, he will put a stop to this imposter. Tuyet gets cut in half. In the online serial Dark Mirror, Takanuva travels to an alternate universe where the Matoran universe was ruled by the evil Toa of Water Tuyet. Takanuva escaped this universe using a portal made by a Kanoi Olmec. Tuyet attempted to stop him, but the closing portal sliced her in half while she was holding onto the Toa of Light. This was considered to be one of the more darker moments in the Bionicle story. Matoran, Krana, and Zyglak made from the same materials. The original Matoran were created by the Great Beings. Remains from the process that created Matoran were exposed to energized protodermis and created Krana while also accidentally creating the Zyglak in the process. 2001 film. A Bionicle movie was planned back in 2001. It was supposed to go alongside the PC game Legend of Amaja-Nui, the web games, and the comics as a way to communicate the story points of the Toa. Only the web games and comics made it through the finish line in time. The Bionicle movie was ultimately completed in 2003 and was named Bionicle Mask of Light. Matoran Civil War. The Matoran Civil War was an old conflict around 80,000 years ago that was caused by a trade dispute in Metru-Nui. Since all of Metru-Nui was too busy fighting each other, the war led to the Great Disruption, a time where Mata-Nui was gravely ill. The Civil War was eventually stopped by the Makuta. The Makuta were given the responsibility to supervise regions of the Matoran universe to prevent this from happening again. The Great Disruption was later resolved by Jovan's team, which involved the sacrifice of a Toa wearing the Mask of Life. This makes Motoro the second Toa to sacrifice himself with the Mask of Life. Merendar. Merendar was a failsafe created by the Great Beings to kill Toa if they ever posed a threat to the Agori and Glatorian. This biomechanical being was released from its imprisonment when Toa appeared on the newly restored planet of Cirrus Magna. Merendar was going to play a bigger role in the story, but the story ended before this could further be detailed. Baby Rahi. In Tale of the Toa, a baby Taku interacted with Liwa, despite baby Rahi not actually existing in canon. That is because Rahi cannot reproduce. However, the phrase baby could simply be reinterpreted to mean small. The Red Star is Hell. The Red Star was a mysterious object known to resurrect beings who have died in the Matoran universe. One of the Red Star's purposes was to repair beings and then send them back to the Matoran universe to continue working. The place could be described as hell or purgatory as the beings are unable to escape the Red Star due to a teleporter being broken. This resulted in a very crowded, dark space where beings with scrambled minds wander aimlessly while being tortured and chased by the evil workers of the star, the Kastora. The writer Greg conceptualized the idea since he wanted a plot about zombies on a space station. Grolok, based off Makuta Nui. A 2003 alternate build called Makuta Nui never appeared in the storyline at all. A Rahi named Grolok the Ash Bear appeared in the game Bionicle Maze of Shadows that had a similar appearance to the Makuta Nui. Many people believe the alternate model is supposed to be Grolok the Ash Bear from Mask of Light, but Greg shot this idea down many times. Grolok the Ash Bear was specifically made for the movie and has only appeared in the movie, thus, no physical set build exists for Grolok. 14B 2020. A hashtag made by Faber on his Instagram where he kept teasing about a possible G3 reboot, but it was really just to attract attention. Many people got frustrated with Faber, believing his cryptic messages did not help explain what he was hinting at. Faber has since created plenty of art with loose references to Bionicle. Eventually, in a recent video, his tease was revealed to be concept art and unused storylines for Bionicle G2 that heavily involved the Mask of Time. These ideas ultimately did not appear in the final product. Zactan survived. Right before Makuta Pterodax's takeover of the Matoran universe, the Paraka Zactan, who is now a fish, was brought alongside the Toa Haga as a guide to find Makuta Pterodax's location. After Zactan's fishbowl was destroyed by Pterodax, the critically wounded Zactan escaped and ended up traveling to Zakaz to be fused together with the other Paraka and creatures to make the golden-skinned being. Zactan was already known to be hard to kill, and many believed he had a special ability that made him unkillable. The Shadowed One's real name. After the backlash from Greg's reveal of Makuta's name being Pterodax, Greg knew the real name of the Shadowed One, but refused to share it due to the outrage. To this day, no one knows his real name. In canon, it is said that the Dark Hunter Ancient was the only one to know his true name, but Ancient was later killed by the Shadowed One. His secret died with him. Jalar has two swords. In writing, Jalar is described to have two swords despite his set being depicted as only having one. Greg initially brushed it off as a typo, but also indicated that he wanted Jalar to wield two swords. Non-canon combiners. There were many non-canon combiners that never actually showed up in the story. Examples include the Japanese Borak combiners and the Rakshi combiners. Huki and Nika being brown and yellow. The 2006 Nika animations originally depicted Huki and Nika as being brown and yellow in color. The colors of his final set form were changed to be gunmetal gray and yellow. Fuki is said to be the first stone-associated character to not be primarily brown, since it was found that brown sets did not sell well. Subsequent Toho stone sets avoided the color brown. Golden-skinned being. The golden-skinned being was a powerful fusion created by mixing Zygalite, Vortex, Kreka species, and the Baraka in a vat of energized protodermis. This being had the ability to fulfill the desires and wishes of any person nearby. With the help of the Iron Tribe survivor Samad, the being defeated its counterpart, the dream-eating Inona, and sought to conquer the new world of Spheres Magna with the Skakti army. Great beings are human. Plenty of people theorize that the great beings are human, and that the story of Bionicle is basically about humans inventing robots in a dystopian future. The great beings canonically are of the same species of the Glatorian. Greg even stated that they are not human. The Great Takara. This was a dance or chant led by a Turaga of a Matoran village to praise the Great Spirit. Matoran can be seen dancing in MNOG. Matoran are also seen dancing in the cancelled Legend of Amaja-Nui game. Bara concept art. Early 2002 concept art depicts the Barak as spider-like creatures that carry the Borak on their backs. This concept was ultimately scrapped in the final sets. Makuta talks to himself. In the 2004 movie Legends of Metronui, there was a scene where the false Turaga Duma, also known as Makuta in disguise, talks to a reflection or mirror of himself. Many people initially believed Turaga Duma was working for Makuta, but it was later shown that it was actually Makuta talking to himself. I guess it's to build his ego? The Bionicle Wiki is superior. Loaded with advertisements and lack of citations, the Bionicle Wiki is considered to be inferior compared to BS01, despite usually appearing as the first link on Google's top search results. The Dream. At some point after Bionicle ended, Bionicle fans realized many had a similar dream during their sleep, which simply became known as The Dream in the community. In The Dream, fans will find themselves in a store that had discontinued Bionicle sets. Sometimes the sets were brand new sets, sometimes the dreamer wakes before they could buy the sets. The Dream centers around the nostalgia of seeing sets when Bionicle was active and the joy of their return. It is of genuine curiosity how this general theme has manifested in so many Bionicle fans, and has therefore become a community meme. Gapura farting. In MNOG, Gapura can be seen farting whenever he walks around. Characters sound like programming code. Greg described the Matoran universe inhabitants speaking a language that sounded like computer-like noises to outsiders. The garbled speech and noises in the Herdika animations in MNOG were meant to be close to what Greg imagined. Maxilos wearing a Nika. There is a deleted scene cut from the final release of the 2007 web game Command to Omari that showed Maxilos wearing a black mask of life. Masks of Power. This is in reference to the masks that the Toamata had to collect in the 2001 story. This is also the name of a popular fan-made Bionicle RPG where you play as one of the Toamata and go around the island of Mata-Nui to pick up the Masks of Power. Original plans for Red Star. Bionicle co-creator Alastair Swinnerton hinted that the Toho were originally meant to come from the Red Star. The Red Star was also planned as an orbiting mothership of sorts by Gordon Kleems from Templar Games, the same company that made MNOG. Its main purpose of assisting the Great Spirit robot to take off from the planet was planned back in 2001 and still holds canon to this day. Many people theorized during the development of the story the Red Star would have been where the Great Beings were originally going to be. G2 Vahi and G1 Vahi are two halves of the same mask. As a tie-in between G1 and G2, the G2 Mask of Time was made to look like it could combine with the G1 Vahi. The G1 Vahi appeared many times in the Bionicle G2's animation. The idea from the story Bible was to imply there might be a distant in-universe connection between the two, although this wasn't intended to be explored and was really only an Easter egg. This idea of it being two halves was also hinted in the Bionicle G2 book. Shadow Toa Original Fight. In the book Tale of the Toa, the author Kathy Hapka wrote that the Toa had to face each other's Shadow Toa to defeat them. However, in 2005, the Bionicle Encyclopedia stated that the Toa defeated the Shadow Toa when they acknowledged that the darkness was a part of them and absorbed the shadows into their bodies. The second version is based on the original story Bible for 2001 and is canon. Salmat's Lover. Salmat had a lover as part of his tragic backstory. This marks one of the few described canon examples of romantic love in the Bionicle story. the only other being Kina's unequivocal romantic feelings for Amaja-Nui. Hapori Doom. He's the evil brother of Hapori Tohu, BZ Power's mascot. His story is told through the popular Dark 709 comics. Canister Wasteland. Fantastic couple of action animations from early BioTube. The animations were named Canister Wasteland because they took place on sets composed largely of Bionicle canisters. Canister Wasteland 2 featured a fan-made encounter among Toa Likan, Toa Nidiki, Kraka, and OC Dark Hunter, and Nuparu. Blood Colossus in 4 is Maxilos. The monster from Marvel Comics 4 Reign of Blood Volume 1 Number 1 is based on the 2007 Maxilos set. The robot also had a head of a spinax. Cancelled Doom Rescue Comic. A cancelled 2005 webcomic was supposed to tell the story of how the Toa Fordika rescued Turaga Duma, who was trapped in the Matoran sphere in Metro Nui. An early advertisement and part of the script was made. However, it was stopped and left incomplete. Norika's Doom and Iruni's Nidiki. Originally, the Toa Haga sets of 2005 were supposed to be Toa Duma and Toa Nidiki, though this idea was later scrapped. Resemblances of the Toa can still be seen on the sets, including Toa Norik's use of the same mask as Doom, and Toa Nidiki's mask being similar to Nidiki's head in its 2004 Titan set. A canon explanation by Greg was made in which the shape of a mask does not necessarily match up with the mask's power. Vizola's sexuality. Some fans feel that Vizola's bizarre obsession with Nokama may have been more than platonic. She certainly exhibits stalkerish behavior, including making a shrine to Nokama in her room, which in the real world tends to correlate with an unhealthy romantic interest. Given LEGO's media policies, this theory is not canon, but that never stopped fans. Yo-Yo Paraka Extended Edition. The widely memed Paraka wrap used in advertising for the Paraka in 2006 actually has an extended edition. It was recently found by Ganon the Crate on a long-lost Jetix CD in 2020. Hapori Tohu. He is the mascot of BZ Power, who is found on the logos and banners of BZ Power. He was featured heavily in fan-made comics like Dark 709's comics. Boneheads of Voodoo Island. Before the concept of Bionicle was finalized, the original concept was named Boneheads of Voodoo Island. Several designs and concepts were released by Faber in the Turaga files. Bendy Helrix. Recently, TTV hosted a canonization contest in which Bionicle fans voted on the best depictions of characters who previously did not have visual depiction. Bendy Helrix was a meme entry designed for the first TTV canonization contest for Helrix and almost won its contest, sparking conspiracy theories of vote rigging. Most people voted largely for comedy and as a protest of the contest. This caused a lot of drama, fan art, and memes. Subsequent changes to the rules made it more difficult to submit meme entries. Old BioTube. The old BioTube had plenty of nostalgic videos. Many of these videos involve fight animations, Team Fortress 2 parodies, fan animations/stories, mocks, and reporting on the most recent Bionicle news. Some famous old BioTubers include Kyler Nuvo 135, Shadowgear 6335, Edicarts, Moonstalker, Toa Juni, and BioRock Dude. Verano Animations. Verano is a talented Bionicle fan, artist, and animator known for his popular Bionicle animation videos on YouTube. Also the designer of the canon depiction of Toa Nikila, a close friend of Toa Lesovic and a member of the Toa Kordak. Takanuva in the LEGO Movie 2. Takanuva was originally going to make a cameo appearance in the LEGO Movie 2, and also had dialogue. However, he ultimately did not appear in the movie. Quest of the Toa film. This was a cancelled fan 3D animated movie led by Jonathan Kaplan. The project was started in 2005 and vanished in 2010. The project leader mysteriously disappeared. Due to this, a fan group named Beaver House decided to release the assets of the project, including a whole playlist of music. Assets appear to show concept art, a 3D model of the island of Amaja-Nui, and 3D models of Tahu and Bakama. Shadow Toa Akmau. Akmau was originally planned to become a Shadow Toa and become an antagonist. This was hinted at as Makuta Ikrax planned to drop Shadow Leeches on Akmau while flying over Metro Nui during the 2008 storyline. However, the Makuta turned its attention to Takanuva instead.
Onua vs. Kohojaga. There was a Amaja-Nui online game scene that was planned by Templar Games where Toa Onua would fight against a group of scorpion Rahi called Kohojaga. This scene was ultimately scrapped. A fan named Perry decided to depict this deleted scene in a fan-made video. Bionicle Revolution. This was a cancelled, fan-made 3D animation movie that was supposed to be an original telling of Bionicle facing off with Hero Factory. The creator, Failsafe272, got into a lot of controversy over his creative decisions and cancellation of the movie. He now does unrelated, popular 3D animations. Is that enough shade in my voice? Toa Olda. This was the old way of referring to the Toa Mata before they were called the Toa Mata. Bionicle Next Generation. This was a cancelled Bionicle project that was planned to depict various Bionicle serials in a series of movies that would be done via 3D animation in Blender. The project was later scrapped due to overambitious goals and internal conflicts. Their 3D assets still exist in the public domain for people to download and use. Dinosaurs on Bota Magna. Had the Bionicle story continued, the story would have been brought to the planet of Bota Magna, where dinosaurs roamed. Ultimately, due to Bionicle's cancellation, this never came to be. Greg liked the idea of dinosaurs, but never officially canonized their existence. Additionally, dinosaurs are mentioned in the cancelled sequel movie script for The Legend Reborn. Mike Bloomberg's connection with Bionicle. The writer of Mike Bloomberg's daughter's horse romance novels used to write the 2001 Bionicle Chronicles books. Sand Tarakava. The Sand Tarakava was a prototype with a slightly different build to the final version of the Tarakava. This set was a yellow Tarakava that had a prototype yellow Ruru on it. It was rumored that only 5 exist, which were all sold to private collectors by LEGO. During the development of the Legend of Mata-Nui game and Mata-Nui the online game, assets were made based on the Sand Tarakava. Later on, when the Tarakava was finalized, the assets were never updated to reflect the final build, but instead were simply recolored. Unused dialogue in Mata-Nui the online game confirmed that the Sand Tarakava was supposed to appear at some point. A developer of the online game was able to win the Sand Tarakava as a prize during a bowling event with LEGO and other game developers. He later sold the Sand Tarakava on eBay in 2002, where it was bought by a fan site called Mask of Destiny. The Sand Tarakava was soon mentioned in various Bionicle guides and became canon. Turaga used the Borak Va body in Mask of Light. The body of the Turaga in the movies carried similar elements to the Borak Va sets, rather than their Turaga set counterparts. This design also carried over to the Rahaga in Web of Shadows. All Matoran are asexual. This is common knowledge, as Matoran and all the Matoran universe inhabitants cannot sexually reproduce. This can also be a reference to the preference of certain Matoran being certain genders due to tradition. Kina is named after Greg's ex-wife. Kina is loosely inspired by Greg's ex-wife, Shakina Farshti. This was confirmed by Greg. The Legend Reborn trilogy. There were original plans for a sequel to The Legend Reborn, possibly a trilogy. A draft of the script of the 5th movie was released. The 5th movie would have introduced Bota Magna and involved the Element Lords more. Ultimately, the plans were scrapped. Papu and Rangi. The original names of the gods, or great beings, of Bionicle originally hinted in story concepts of Bionicle. They were briefly mentioned in Mata-Nui the online game, but were not heard from again. The names are bastardizations of the Maori creation legend. Most likely it never reappeared due to the controversy. 2008 promo spoiled Great Spirit Robot reveal. Proof of concept video sent to retailers in 2008 by LEGO to promote Bionicle just straight up shows the Great Spirit Robot, long before its official reveal later that year. Lee the Surfer. A story made up by Turaga Vakama and Nuju, which is supposed to be a reference to Lee Khan. He was said to be the greatest lava surfer, until he perished in a terrible accident. Glatorian and the Core Processor. This is a reference to the dead Glatorian species found in the room that houses the mind of Mata-Nui. These Glatorian were supposed to pilot the Great Spirit Robot if Mata-Nui malfunctioned, but they died when the Great Cataclysm struck. Infected Liwa animation. This is an early 2001 animation depicting Liwa with an infected mask running through the jungle. The animation was done professionally for some kind of industry reason, but the origin behind it was unknown for a while. In the years since, it has been found that Elliott Animation were behind it, and it was produced as a pitch for making Mask of Light. Amaja-Nui the online game 2, Lost Files. When the game was removed from the Bionicle website, 2 files were accidentally deleted, rendering the game unbeatable without cheats. Both files were never recovered. Nova Orbis. Nova Orbis was a popular fan-made comic story that was said to be a continuation of Bionicle, set many centuries after the events of 2010. Draw a Paraka jump scare. This game, in early 2006, required a person to complete the drawing of a Paraka by connecting the dots. Before the person is able to complete the drawing, the game would jump scare the person with the face of Bizok. Only 12 Matoran per element. In Amaja-Nui the online game 2, each village in each region of the island of Amaja-Nui had 12 Matoran. Everything is a multiple of 6. Each wave of sets were released as 6 sets at a time. 42 Krana can be divided by 6 evenly. 48 Krana can be divided by 6 evenly. 6 Koros, 6 Metro Districts, 12 Konohi masks to collect on Amaja-Nui. Toa teams were usually 6 Toa, etc. In universe, it results in a long stream of coincidences in which characters often end up forming teams of 6, fight 6 types of villains, etc. It was acknowledged in story during the 2006 story, in which a canister builder Matoran implies that the number 6 is a universal constant in the Matoran universe. Bionicle Legends: Invasion. This is a reference to the 7th Bionicle Legends book that was supposed to release in mid-2007, but was cancelled due to Scholastic rescheduling releases. It was to tell the story of the Toa and Aika's journey down the cord. The introduction of the book was released online to BZ Power by Greg. Although Greg wanted to release the book as a serial on the site, the deal fell through, as BZ Power wanted Greg to commit to a monthly release schedule. The 7 Books of Bionicle. Bob Thompson hinted at having 7 books of Bionicle prior to his departure. It was believed each of these books contained the various stories of Bionicle, including the 2001 to 2003 story and the 2004 to 2005 story. Since he kept these books close to his chest, Greg had no idea what the contents of these books were. Greg Taka. This art submission in the TTV canonization contest depicts our Taka in a pose very similar to a picture of Greg Varshti. Killing Machines. This is the name of a nostalgic Bionicle music track made by Paul Hardcastle. Nobua, a purple howl-wearing Onu-Matoran who Onua first meets in the cancelled Legend of Amaja-Nui game. Since his name was never featured in other forms of media and was never in the story, he is not canon. However, there are Matoran in Amaja-Nui the online game and in the comics who look identical to him. Amaja-Nui the online game Makuta is a Lego box. This was an analogy of Amaja-Nui the online game Makuta representing a pile of Lego pieces on the floor. Makuta represents the destructive aspect of playing with Lego, in which Lego creations come from piles of Lego and eventually return to being piles of Lego. This was told by Gordon Climes, Templar Games art director and lead animator for Amaja-Nui the online game. Takua's real name is George. Backlot, an early 3D Lego game by Templar Games, features a Matoran bearing a strong resemblance to Takua. However, he is renamed George and is reading a script for a film called Bionicle the Swarm. The model for George is from an early build of Legend of Amaja-Nui, and George was a placeholder name for Takua in Amaja-Nui the online game. Fight Me, Tamaru is trans. A popular headcanon by many discusses that Tamaru has a Ga-Matoran personality in the body of a Le-Matoran due to his fear of heights, which is unlike other Le-Matoran, and due to his ability to swim, which is unlike other Le-Matoran, and more in tune with Ga-Matoran. He is known to be used as an example for many LGBTQ Bionicle memes and statements. Join search party for Onua. This is a reference to a side quest to look for Onua that was an unused asset in Amaja-Nui the online game. Pterodax was meant to pilot a 3rd robot. This is actually incorrect, as Makuta Pterodax was actually meant to pilot the Great Spirit robot, while Amaja-Nui was transferred to a 3rd robot. From there, the two would work together to reunite the shattered Spherus Magna. Though plans to go that way and a third robot was never built. It would have had a similar design to the Great Spirit robot and would have carried its own Matoran universe. City of Silver in the Red Star. These two places are completely different places and have no connection other than both places share the same beings, the Castora. However, there is no connection regarding how the Castora of both places are related. He's a big machine! This line can be heard shouted by someone in the crowd in Mask of Light after Hahli's speech. This is possibly a reference to Amaja-Nui himself, though there's a fair chance he said something else and we're mishearing. Toa Mata cameo in Green Lantern comic. The Toa Mata make an appearance in a comic where alternate universes are shown. This could also be a reference to a Green Lantern character named Stell, who looks similar to Liwa Mata. Gathered friends. This is a common expression used at the beginning of the Bionicle movies when Turaga Vakama is telling the story of Bionicle. This could also be a reference to the podcast run by the fan group, Beaver House. The Crossing translation. This is a book-length Bionicle story that was published exclusively in Poland. The story was originally written in English, but only the Polish translation was ever distributed. Ga-Wahi. Ga-Wahi was a former TTV member who had sexual allegations made against him since he was harassing another fellow female TTV member. Ga-Wahi went to remove LJ, which prompted LJ to form his own YouTube channel. Ga-Wahi's sexual allegations were exposed in a Lime Joint podcast video, which led him to leave TTV. LJ later rejoined TTV. Ga-Wahi created his own YouTube channel, J.J, and has since pushed himself away from the Bionicle community. 9/11 affected the production of Amaja-Nui, the online game. During the 9/11 attacks, Templar Games watched the Twin Towers in smoke from the roof of their offices. It pushed the team further into the world they were creating and was a form of escapism for them. The team were kept inside the building for several nights as they completed the 7th chapter of the 9 chapters of Amaja-Nui, the online game. The release of the 7th chapter happened around the time when the Legend of Amaja-Nui game was formally cancelled.
Human in Mask of Light Early Draft. The director's commentary from the Mask of Light DVD bonus features mentions very early drafts featuring a real human child being transported to the world of Bionicle as the main character and going on the quest that Takua does. This was scrapped as the subsequent need to explain the presence of humans in the Bionicle canon was deemed too difficult and off-tone. However, this does serve to re-emphasize how Takua was generally thought of within LEGO as the audience's go-to self-insert or point-of-view character, a role he also serves in the game Bionicle Quest for the Toa and, most famously, the Amaja-Nui online game. Tren Krom has glued human hair. This is a reference to a 2008 set prototype that is so hideous some thought it was Tren Krom when it in fact wasn't. Most alarmingly, it seemed to have featured glued-on human hair. Ew. MNOG, a production for a Amaja-Nui online game that was cancelled, expected to have succeeded the previous Amaja-Nui online game and Amaja-Nui online game 2. A fan-made game has since been made, but sadly, we will never know what could have been. Axon is a Toa Kaita. This is a headcanon theory on both BZ Power and the r/Bionicle LEGO subreddit Discord. Axon, in canon, is described as a brave defender of justice, a selfless hero who defends the Matoran of Onu-Koro. This sounds very much like a Toa. Adding to this, his large size and multitude of powers may indicate that he is in fact a Toa Kaita, a merged form of 3 different Toa. Lightning, plasma, and iron are the most commonly theorized candidates for the elements of the Toa Kaita. In addition to this, Axon's species doesn't have much in the way of defining traits that would exclude this classification, unlike his friend Brutaka, for example, whose species becomes powered up on Antidermis. MNOG 7th Tribe. Early into the Amaja-Nui online game, aka MNOG's production, a secret cult-like tribe of Makuta-worshipping Matoran in a 7th tribe were planned to be featured in the story. This concept was scrapped, although the shrine of infected comet holy balls we see Pohatu destroy is a remnant of this plot point. Takanuva as trans allegory. Similarly to Tamaru, Takanuva is often headcanoned as transgender within the Bionicle community, due to his narrative themes of transformation and the blurring of boundaries. He was the story's first introduction to Matoran transforming into Toa, and the first apparent character to change elemental affinity, from fire to light. Although Takanuva is later confirmed to have always been affiliated with light, but just hadn't known it at the time. This reveal has given many transgender Bionicle fans particular appreciation of Takanuva's character arc. The Council. This so-called secretive Discord server was where top Bionicle community members make decisions and govern the Bionicle fandom. They have been known to blacklist people from their various Discord servers if they go against their beliefs and causes. Bionicle groups known to be in the server include TTV, Beaverhouse, RSG, r/Bionicle, Biosector01, and Masterpiece. Sometimes memed as a sort of Bionicle Illuminati, TTV say it is simply more a way for high-profile groups to communicate and plan collaborations with each other, such as Bionicle Day. Solekians. This was originally a meme group created in response to the TTV channel's member Mesonak expressing a particular dislike of the 2008 Avmatoran set named Solek. A group consisting of Solek defenders slowly formed, reaching ever more silly heights of praise towards Solek, from claiming he is the best Bionicle set ever to deifying him as a god. Eventually, the group started using white supremacist references and was deemed too toxic and disruptive, which caused friction in the TTV community and message boards and led to several bans. Matanui's hand in the 2002 story. Old concept art showed Matanui's fingers protruding out from the ocean, following an earthquake after the Toa's first victory on Matanui. The idea was originally suggested in 2000, and there was supposed to be a 2002 plot set on this three-finger island, but it was deemed to be too much of a giveaway of Matanui's true nature and was scrapped. Arguably, echoes of the idea exist in the much later 2006 creation of the plot with Voyanui, which was part of Matanui which had floated to the surface too. Paranormal Bionicle footage. This video contains a collection of Bionicles in an attic. In the video, a Bionicle creation can be seen turning its head towards the camera on its own with no one else present in the room. The footage is said to be genuine and not a hoax. Takanuva and the Great Being Civil War. This was a plotline hinted by Greg Vashti, in which Takanuva would play a pivotal role in the coming Great Being Civil War, after the reformation of Baramagna, Botamagna, and Aquamagna. The idea never saw light of day, pun intended, as Greg stopped writing the serials in 2011, sadly. Welcome. You've made it to the pit, the 10th tier. A zone of darkness where all the creeps from the deep of Bionicle lore and history fall, to be archived only by the most zealous and insane of bird-speaking Bionicle fans. We hope you like it here. (2001) Story Bible. As is common with the production of a new fictional IP, there was a 2001 Story Bible which provided various ideas of the original storyline of Bionicle, some of which did not make the final cut. For example, the Matanui robot was originally meant to be an evacuation ship of sorts, transporting the remaining inhabitants of a destroyed planet. The Rahi, Borok, Matoran, and Toa were all meant to work in harmony to maintain the robot, so that Matanui could one day settle on a planet and the sleeping inhabitants of the destroyed world could rebuild a new life on a new home. You can find a document that explains all of these ideas in the description. It's well worth a read. Biodermis Smith Dismembered Oniwa. This is a reference to some unused assets in the Bionicle Mata-Nui online game, showing a Matoran named Biodermis Smith next to the dismembered body of Turaga Oniwa. No context is given, but this is presumably just a dev test of MNOG's character asset system. Though Biodermis Smith is officially not canon, he lives on in our hearts as a particularly sick but charismatic roster of obscure Bionicle characters worthy of our love and praise. Legend of Mata-Nui 2001 build. Do not research. This was an early build of the unreleased Legend of Mata-Nui game, which featured the Toa occasionally doing rude or obscene gestures. Pohatu would urinate on the ground, and Onua would stick his middle claw up to the camera, flipping off the player. Although, again, non-canon, one can only wonder how plausible such depictions are of the Toa Mata. We all know Oniwa got that dog in him deep down, don't cap. Movie/novel universe versus set/comic universe. This is a reference to how some people argue over what they believe the story is canonically. Some people follow the story via movies and novels, while others follow the sets and comics. This is also a reference to visual depictions of characters and how they differ in different media. This includes the different designs of Metronui's Colosseum in promo materials versus the movies, Turaga Duma's movie form in the comics versus the sets, and whether characters have hands and fingers or not. Officially, however, Greg Farshty has confirmed that sets by default are always the most canon depictions of characters, and where story points conflict, the most to least canon sources are comics, then novels, then movies. That doesn't stop fans preferring different orderings, of course. But for real though, the Spherus Magnans should have hair and exoskeletons like armadillos, but the sets don't depict that, and the true number of digits on Toa Matoran should be 4 per hand. It's the best synthesis between sets, movies, and practical story requirements. Don't at me. Alastair Swinnerton's unused ideas. Alastair Swinnerton was one of the co-founders of the original idea of Bionicle, and also wrote the 2001 Story Bible, which contained several ideas that were ultimately scrapped from the Bionicle story. For example, there were originally only 4 Toa: fire, water, air, and earth, and only later was stone and ice added, as LEGO had production lines for 6 different set types ready, and it was believed that waves of 6 would sell better than 4. You can find the document that explains more of these different scrapped ideas in the description. The Toa Metru's racist relationships reflect Metronui's dark history. A fan theory that the Toa Metru's attitudes and relationships with one another are largely influenced by the cultural trauma left by the 400-year conflict, the Matoran Civil War. In a fan essay, Tumblr user Elaho makes the legitimately compelling case that Oniwa and Matau's disdain for Vakama and their use of terms like Fire Spitter show a deep resentment for Tamatoran in general, which come from the Civil War initially being started due to trade disputes between Ta-Metru and Po-Metru. Nakama's lecturing attitude and defensiveness of Vakama reflects Ga-Metru's alliance with Ta-Metru, and the blue-collar/white-collar class tensions between Ga-Metru, a sophisticated district of teachers, scientists, and researchers, against Po-Metru, a simpler but essential district of builders and engineers. Oniwa's combative and untrusting attitude is likely the result of Po-Metru being the most dilapidated Metru, which, it seems, was never given the help it needed to recover from the war, unlike the other Metrus, and so had to largely fend for itself. Although, officially, it is unclear which Metru is most at fault for the war, Vakama's deep insecurities hint at Ta-Metru being seen as the one to blame, demonstrated in Vakama's acceptance of insults from the others, because he feels he deserves them. Even on Mata-Nui, after the Matoran lost their memories, insults like Fire Spitter and more rocks in his head than a Po-Matoran still exist, although they, like the tension between tribes, seems far less serious, since the Matoran will have largely forgotten their trauma, and they are led by the former Toa Metru, who, as Turaga, have largely overcome their differences and resentments towards one another.
Well, that's the entire iceberg. Thank you for sticking around for this long. Which facts on the iceberg did you find most interesting? Let us know in the comments below. If you'd like to see more videos, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. This is the way of the Bionicle.